Hey everybody, my name is James Lee. Thank you for tuning in. So last week I was reading some articles and watching some videos on the MSNBC lineup shakeup. And I think I've come to realize or have this hypothesis that I don't think MSNBC is going to be around in about 20 years. So what I mean by it's going to be dead in 20 years, MSNBC could very well be around as an entity and still broadcasting things, but I don't think they're going to have anywhere the amount of influence that they have today. I'm going to tell you exactly why I think that and the impact that's going to have on politics. So why do I think they're not going to be around in 20 years? Well, if we look at some of the data here, it suggests that their average viewer age is increasing every year. Based on Nielsen data from 2018, it looks like the median age of an MSNBC viewer was 65 years old, and that is up from 63 2 years prior to that in 2016. So that's definitely not ideal for MSNBC. So what that data suggests is that they're not really bringing in any new viewers. They might be retaining the viewers they already have, but they're certainly not getting any new viewers. And when I look at some of the big anchors they have in their lineup, I'm not surprised that younger viewers are not being drawn in to watching MSNBC. One of the lead personalities of MSNBC is Rachel Maddow. And over the last couple years, she's talked a lot about this Russiagate situation with Trump. And to me, she's verging on, or perhaps is already there, in terms of being a Russia conspiracy sycophant type person. There was even a time on her show when she theorized that Trump was curiously well versed in specific Russian talking points. And what she means by that is she's implying that the press briefings were dictated from the Kremlin, which is a point I find kind of ridiculous because I've watched some Trump press briefings and it doesn't appear that he's well versed in any sort of talking points. It's kind of ridiculous to suggest that he's like super good at Russian talking points. I don't think it makes any sense. Another leading personality is Chuck Todd. Now, here's a guy who, during the primary, compared Bernie Sanders supporters to Nazi brown shirts. So he's not drawing in a younger audience. And in fact, ironically, he is the one that MSNBC is banking on in their streaming platform. They're moving his show now to Peacock, which I don't think is going to work. Especially now to a lot of the younger people out there, he's known for calling them Nazis. Finally, the other big name that I want to touch on is Nicole Wallace, who is now getting a promotion because now her show is 2 hours in prime time. And in terms of her background, Nicole Wallace is a former White House communications director during the Bush administration. So as a millennial or even a Gen Zer, you are definitely not tuning into MSNBC for Nicole Wallace. That's just not something that is going to happen. So with that lineup, I think their current boomers are going to stick with them probably, but they're as they age out, they're definitely not bringing in any new people. The second point that I want to make is that there is a counterpoint to the argument that I just made, in that some people feel like viewing preferences will change as they get older, so more and more people will start watching MSNBC as they get older. Let me just pull up a discussion here on Quora where this guy writes that the question in terms of what the future of cable news will be is that the question is a bit of a statistical mess. If I were to measure literacy, I would find 1 to 5 year olds extremely deficient, with the numbers climbing until leveling out in adulthood. You are not, however, measuring groups but stages in an individual's life. It is a repeated measure of a single participant at various points in their life. I wanted to touch on this point and try to debunk it because it does sound somewhat like a smart argument if you just read it and think about it at a surface type level. You know, they're saying essentially like, oh yes, we as a kid like to watch a lot of cartoons, but then as we get older, maybe we'll watch real people TV shows, essentially what it's saying there. But I don't think it applies in this situation because think about it. So if I'm a young person and I get all my news from new media, whether it be on YouTube or TikTok or whatever it might be, I have a hard time seeing how I'm going to switch over from watching something like Kyle Kulinski or The Majority Report to then graduating and say, oh, I'm at a certain age, I'm 45 years old, it's time to switch over to MSNBC. I don't think that behavior is happening. I think MSNBC has their current audience because it was launched in the mid-90s during the height of the baby boomer era, and so they were able to capture a lot of that audience because first of all, there wasn't a lot of choice back then. So if you grew up with MSNBC during that time period, I'm sure you're more likely to stick with them, but I do not think it is a behavioral change like you get to a certain age and then you watch more MSNBC. I just don't think that's the case. So I think right now they're retaining their core audience, but as they age out, they're going to have fewer and fewer viewers as the years go on. And the third point I want to make is that there's also this cord cutting situation that's happening, is that more and more people are no longer subscribing to cable, so the relevance of cable news is going to take a hit no matter what. I know that they're moving online and streaming and Peacock and this kind of thing, but unless they get some new personalities in there, it's just not going to work. If you're launching your streaming with Chuck Todd, it's just a bad move. I don't know what's going on. And I've been thinking a lot about why their current lineup is the way they are. Why wouldn't they want to adapt and bring in more people, younger people? Why wouldn't they want to adapt their business? And I've come to the conclusion that they don't see MSNBC as a business. They see it as a propaganda tool. Now, I have no idea what's going on in their executive boardrooms and how they make decisions and that kind of thing, but I have a feeling that it's more about who can we get in there to control the message versus how can we be a better source of news and political commentary. And that type of thinking may have worked in the old days when there's very limited access to broadcasts. You know, you had to go through one of the main channels to get on TV. But now with this democratization of media, anybody can really, if they want to, reach the world essentially. And so they have to compete in that free market type environment where really the best content wins. So my assessment, which is a little bit optimistic here, is that I don't think propaganda tools are going to survive in the free market. I think people are smart and they will sniff out BS when they're being fed that. And one of the examples I like to point to is earlier on in the primary, I think it was in New Hampshire, they interviewed this lady, I think on accident, honestly, about who she's voting for. And she said Bernie because MSNBC was so negative in covering him and that she ended up deciding to vote for him. And let me see if I could find that clip actually.
Who did you vote for?
I voted for Bernie. The kind of the stop Bernie cynicism that I heard from a number of people. I watch MSNBC constantly, so I heard that from a number of commentators, and so it made me angry enough. I said, okay, Bernie's got my vote.
I don't think they saw that coming, really. If they keep going on with this propaganda strategy, I don't think it's going to bode well for them in the future. They're going to continue to lose relevance and influence as the years go on. So in terms of the impact I think this will have, this is one of my truly great hopes for the future of American politics, is that these candidates that are running for office, they no longer need to play to the media to win. Candidates with good ideas that resonate with the public, they're not going to be able to be snuffed out by cable news and the establishment media like they have been in the past. Because right now, at least at the national level, you have zero chance of winning if the media is not on your side. We've seen this 2020 as well as 2016. There's just no chance. But I think that will change in the future. I think in the coming years, we're going to continue to see a democratization in new media, and candidates will definitely be able to more easily speak directly to the people and get their message out. Like if I'm running for office in the future, I don't need to be booked by MSNBC or CNN or these guys. I can go directly to the people, and if my message resonates, then I'll be competitive. We're starting to see a little bit of this, and we saw this in the 2020 primary with the run of Andrew Yang, who was able to outlast many of his traditional opponents like senators and governors and these type of people because his message resonated with the people, and he was able to go directly, because of his large social media following, go directly to the electorate. And now, unfortunately, in 2020, cable news, it's a fact, they still have a large influence on how the population votes. But I think that's going to, like I said, going to continue to change as we go on. And as these boomers age out and they're not filling the pipeline with new people, their influence on politics and who the candidates or who they deem as a serious candidate or not serious candidate is going to continue to wane as the years go by. Now I'm going to try to wrap up this video on a positive note because I don't think I often do that just because there's not a whole lot of positivity going on right now. But if I'm right about this demographic change and this demise in traditional media, cable news, I think in terms of US politics, we're going to start to see candidates with really good ideas that resonate with the people start to be more and more successful, and hopefully we're going to have a more representative type government going forward. Hope you enjoyed this discussion. Let me know what you think of the future of cable news. Do you think I'm right, or maybe do you have some different thoughts on how you think it will go? I'd love to hear it. As always, please, if you enjoyed this video, please like it and also subscribe to 5149. Every single subscriber counts and it helps a lot, so I really appreciate that. I'll be back next week with another video. My name is James Lee, and thank you so much for your time.